Good morning, adventurers! Last night I slept so good. So now it is time for us to head out onto our next adventure, and well, normally I would wash the windshield, fuel the tank, but we have plenty of gas and there is no outrunning all of these bugs. So we're just gonna wait until we get to our next destination, which is in South Dakota. So let's get on the road. Adventurers, we are at WINDCAVE National Park and we are about to go and explore. I wanted to stop off here at the first overlook to get a little bit of information about the area. Now, this was suggested to me by Ranger Haley and she said that I would love it. Now, one thing that I did notice as I was driving in were that there were a few signs along the way. One, the buffalo are dangerous. Yeah, we're not supposed to approach them.
Okay, cool. I'm not trying to get hurt.
Two, kind of whenever you're driving through different places, you see these variations of deer. So some are little deer, some are hopping deer, and then you get to these big mama jabbas with these huge antlers. Those were the ones we saw here. We're at WINDCAVE. Let's go see what the WINDCAVE is all about. I kind of do want to fix my eyebrows though. I'm looking a little rough from this morning. Give me 1 second. 20 minutes later. Have you seen that thing on SpongeBob? Our first buffalo sighting! Whoa, how exciting! I've made it to the visitor center and we're about to go in and find out when the cave tours are. I really hope that we get to take a tour. So, we have a little bit of an issue. The elevators are not working to the cave and there is no way that we can go in otherwise, so they have a variety of other activities that you can participate in, but there will be no caving today. Is something I have never seen at a cave before, and I think it's very interesting. It shows you here that some of the areas that you can enter are only about this size. So let's get a perspective. Do you want to crawl around in something the size of this cardboard box? I don't. No. Funny story, guys. I used to have a little ferret. Oh, aren't they cute? This area of the museum mostly talks about what you can find here. So there's all sorts of different things, from the little black-footed ferret to a little bit about the elk. Yep, that's right. The big guys. Here we discover that they actually microchip the bison to be able to track them and make sure they're okay. I think that's a really great idea considering that bison at one point in time were nearly extinct. It's also low-key a little bit scary to know that something that small can literally track your every move. The elk, on the other hand, are tracked using collars, and they actually track where they go and then how often that they move so that they can determine how large the herd is and how much the herd actually moves throughout the park and beyond the park. For this reason, there's also these posts that are considerably lower on one side of the park to see if the elk are interested in leaving or if they're satisfied being here. And look, guys, we found the bunny. It says here that the bunnies actually coexist with the ferrets and prairie dogs because they're able to use the abandoned holes to escape predators. Very smart thinking little bunnies. Now, something that we often take for granted is that the American Indians used the bison for pretty much everything. Bones, knives, scrapers, sleds. Cool. What about the tail? Fly swatters. That's quite an interesting solution. It really is amazing how resourceful that the Native Americans were. There was no piece left behind, which is partially why it was such a crisis when people started coming in and just hunting them for their skins. Now let's move downstairs where they have the cave information. For us to weigh in on our adventures. There's a simple question and paper for you to answer it. When do you feel like an explorer? Think about it at home. Leave your response in the box below. While I might not have been able to take a tour today of the Wind Cave, I was able to sit in on a really insightful ranger talk where they told not only about Wind Cave but also Jewel Cave and how they are created. So Wind Cave is considered more of a dry cave, but they consider it more of a humid cave because they have a 97% humidity, but they have way less running water. So Jewel Cave has more stalactites and stalagmites, kind of like we have seen when we went to Carlsbad, and this one is going to be more of like the entrance to Carlsbad, where it's less of the stalactites and stalagmites, but more of the things that happen from cave sweat. So cave sweat happens and you end up with popcorn and things like that. So that's kind of cool to know, even if we don't get to see it. What the cave is known for. 95% of the world's boxwork is found in Wind Cave. Go figure. Throughout the day you can see what the cave is doing, whether it is flowing air in or pushing it out, and you can see the miles per hour as well. So there's another test. If you want to be a caver, it says you have to be able to squeeze into tiny little tight places. So right here in the main area, they have this box to challenge people. Can you climb through it? It's kind of small, guys. So this is the box, and just to give a reference, this is my hand. It's about 1.5 hands high, guys. So to answer the golden question of could I be a caver? No, I could not. I'm pretty sure there are portions of my body that just would not squeeze into this tiny little footlocker box. And I think we all know what portions I'm talking about. So I stopped off in the gift shop, picked up my postcards, grabbed a map of the area, and I think that we're gonna go check out some more of the rolling plains and determine if we're gonna go to Jewel Cave, Mount Rushmore, or Custer State Park. There's so many options when you're in this area, and they're all within a very short driving distance. So many options, so many things. I think what we're gonna do first is check out the views that they have at the campground, because that's one of the things that I'm always interested in, is what does my view look like if I camp here? Does not disappoint. You're in the forest and you get to be on the hills or on flat pads depending on what you prefer. I just checked out the bathrooms at the camp too, and guess what? They're flush toilets, not vault toilets, so that is a huge bonus. And they do have a little utility sink area also that is for the campers, and they have them at each one of the loops, so that's super convenient because there aren't a ton of campsites on each loop. So big ups. This is a standard campsite with no amenities, but it does have the grill and picnic table. And then right over here is a nice parking area. Now, one of the things I am asked very frequently is, do I ever check out group campsites? And typically I just kind of see if they do have them, but because I travel solo, I don't look too far into it, you know? It's just not one of those things that really applies to my travels. But since you guys have been asking, I decided that over here I would check this out. And look at this site. It has this nice little group campsite, a path toward it, and then tons of space for you to get out here and really spread out with your group. This could be for a family reunion, a group of friends, a Boy Scout troop, just about anybody who wants to get together and have more than 6 people. You can make a good group campsite. Now these are a little bit more expensive because they're facilitating more people, but it is worth it if you have a group. I also will tell you, however, that you always need to reserve a group site in advance, because a lot of times you're not guaranteed the site if you just show up. For $18 a night, you can stay with the primitive camping, but you don't have to be completely primitive. You do have those flush toilets and beautiful views, which is absolutely awesome. I'm really impressed with the campground. I have stayed at a lot of campgrounds, and this is one that I kind of have on my little list to come back. Because, well, obviously I didn't get to go to the cave, so I gotta come back. Hey guys, we found Prairie Dog Town. Yep, there's actually a pullout for Prairie Dog Town right off the main road. So as we turn, I see a lot of our little furry friends. Nothing better than finding some prairie dogs and hearing their little which is actually their warning device to other prairie dogs, but it's so cute sound. Wow, what a cool sighting, like up close and personal with the bison. That was cool. I am often asked if I ever get lonely while traveling because I travel solo, and typically the answer is no. I have so many opportunities to communicate with other people and to get to know other people while traveling, especially whenever I'm in a state park or national park. Today I got an opportunity to meet a wonderful couple from Rapid City that I had a 30-minute conversation with just because we all pulled off to the same overlook. They gave me some great tips on other places that I should go, and we had some awesome communication about just life in general and the things that we do and that we enjoy. It's so fun to get to meet so many different people, and I think that's one of the things I love most about travel. Sure, it's beautiful and those are the things that everybody expects me to say, but just getting to meet a variety of people that I normally wouldn't, and it takes me outside of my box, it's pretty awesome. Who out there likes a good stop?
Me! I like a good stop.
They have plenty of good stops around this park. So many areas where you can just pull off and check out the surroundings and also get a little education. Do you see what I see? Is that a tower? Huh. I wonder if we can actually climb the tower. I just got here. There's a beautiful parking area, and this guy over here informed me that he had just hiked to the top and you can't go up the tower. At least that was a super enlightening conversation, however. I found out that not only can I not climb the tower to get a good look, also the Jewel Cave, the one that we had thought about going to, is not open for tours. What? How are 2 caves within an 18-mile span both closed for maintenance on the exact same weekend? Weekends are the busy time. Huh? And just like that, we're in Custer State Park. Now, this is the interesting thing. Custer and WINDCAVE border each other. So, Custer State Park begins here. We just passed over this cattle guard. And then, if you're coming the other way, you can go to the other side of the sign and see that it is clearly WINDCAVE National Park. So they're divided only by a fence and a cattle guard. So let's get on and see what Custer has to offer. Now this one is not covered under our National Park Pass, and it is a fee area, so we will need to find a pay station somewhere. These are the kind of things that I look for, guys. Beautiful, amazing river views. gonna soak in the sun here for a moment. It's so beautiful. After I arrived, another family came and they actually got in the water and said it's super cold, guys. Oh, I didn't share with you guys my shirt today. It says nature is medicine. I agree, 150%. We do not have anything that looks even remotely like that in Texas. Permagrin is going to be happening the majority of this trip. And I did find out that unless you're going into the state park, all the way into the state park, you do not have to pay your entrance fee. But if you are going into the state park, it is a $20 fee. I'm actually taking the road that goes through it and goes to Mount Rushmore. Surprisingly, that was not as cold as I thought it would be, but it was still pretty cold. Now this stop is called the Bluebell Picnic Area, and if you continue going up this little path right here, there's a beautiful picnic area that you can stop, and it even has a grill there. So that's kind of nice, but what you're really stopping for is these views. I am a little afraid right now, guys, because I just passed through Keystone, which is the community right beside Mount Rushmore, and it was packed. So I can only imagine that Mount Rushmore is packed. Parking here is a little interesting. They have lots, and they tell you which lot to go to. So I've been told to go to lot 6. And it counts each individual car that goes through and lets them know at the front how many people that they can allow into the lot. Okay, it's time to pack our bag now. It's super busy here today. As you can see, this is just one of 6 lots. So crowded, so incredibly crowded. It makes it impossible to get a really good picture by yourself, but that's okay. I assumed that much. So this area behind me normally has a walk of all of the flags, but right now it's under construction. Apparently we picked the wrong time to travel through this part of South Dakota. Totally was going to get a postcard, and then I came in here. Nope, definitely passing. That's Mount Rushmore. Was it worth the crowd? Not today. It is pretty spectacular to look at, but it's really hard to enjoy when there are like a million people here. Okay, so we broke away from the crowd a little bit for at least this moment. After picking up our map, there is a trail that we can walk down to get to the sculpture studio. And they said it's not the easiest trail, but I'm okay with the challenge. This might make it worth it after all. Okay guys, uneven walking surface, steep ramps and steps, challenge accepted. On a lecture of how they actually created Mount Rushmore, and it was fascinating. For 8 hours a day, for a very long time, people blew things up using dynamite, they hand chiseled away, and then they smoothed. and it was really interesting to find out that they were on these, scaling their way down the mountain. Now, if you have ever watched National Treasure, you're probably familiar with the hidden records room. This actually shows overall blueprint of what it kind of looks like. That's awesome. It does exist. Okay guys, so just a few tidbits. The visitor center, which normally has a ton of different displays, is a portion of the park that's currently closed for the remodeling. They're creating something really epic though. It won't be open until 2020, so if you're coming here before then, you're gonna have pretty limited access. The sculpture studio, the upstairs area, and that's about it. But if you're wanting to wait it out, I would definitely say wait until the visitor center reopens and be amazed. I was debating on doing the hiking trail because it starts right over here. It's called the Presidential Trail, but there have been a lot of people going down it, and there's nothing worse than going on a hiking trail expecting something peaceful, quiet, and being able to appreciate and enjoy your surroundings, and not because there's too many people. So I think that I'm just gonna chalk this up to I'll come back on another trip, and we're off to our next destination. Ooh, guys, we're back to the car, and we need to have a little talk. Just you guys at home and me here in the car. That way nobody gets all sensitive, because I got something to say. Like, for real. I knew whenever I came into the park that it was going to be a little bit chaotic because, well, let's face it, there were tons of people trying to drive into the park and parking lots are all full. It's insane. I mean, it would be hard not to think it's going to be insane. This park raked in $177 million last year alone. They cater to about 3 million guests a year. Yeah, it gets nuts here. But with the construction going on and some of the areas not able to be accessed, it's a little bit more claustrophobic feeling than it probably would normally be. Now, with that being said, that is still no excuse for people to blatantly disregard the clearly marked rules. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. There are two things, just two, that we need to talk about just a little bit. A little bit, okay? So there are clearly marked signs throughout the park that restrict dogs from going to certain areas unless they're service animals. And people were just walking in like they didn't care. Guys, that's not okay. Now what makes it worse is there was no one stopping them. No one! Like, why? So naturally, if there is no enforcement and no regard of the rules, there's gonna be some crazy stuff that happens, which is exactly what happened. People's dogs were using the restroom in places they shouldn't have. And what would make me think that a person who doesn't even pay attention to the sign would pay attention to their dog? They didn't. So there were little dog poops in random places that shouldn't have been, especially on a crowded, busy day. There were too many people there for this to happen. I'm just saying. And then, what makes it worse is those people weren't the only people who were problematic today. No, there were other people who didn't regard other people. And those were the people who, with the large crowds, did not think that they needed to wait in lines. They would just hop right up to the front. When I stopped by the ice cream shop just to check it out, I noticed that somebody totally cut off a child. Where do they do that at? And then whenever I was down in the sculptor studio, I was waiting patiently in line like a whole bunch of other people were to ask a question, and some woman just thought that her time was way more important, so she hopped in front of all of us. I just don't understand this. I can never process this. So if you guys at home have ever experienced anything like this before, let me know in the comments below or send me an email. It was crazy, guys! Ask for a good experience and you will be rewarded. I left the park and I am very close to George Washington right now. The wandering eye see? There he is, right there.